Hey everyone, Gandalver here from Commander Showdown. Thought today we would do a deck tech for my Sliver Overlord deck. Now, one of the biggest things that I've seen when people are talking about who is the best Sliver commander, it usually goes between the Overlord, the Queen, Legion, and Hive Lord. Now, every one of these is powerful, and there's no absolutely right or wrong answer, but for me, it's got to be Overlord. All of them cost the same: a white, a blue, a black, a red, and a green, but Overlord gives you the utility of searching your library for whatever sliver you need whenever you need it. Gives you a real toolbox feel, and also allows you to gain control of any target sliver, assuming that your opponent is playing slivers of their own. You're able to use their army against them, or they just drop in a defender sliver just to kind of hose you. It also works very well with our next card, Meeboy Changeling. As a changeling, has all creature types, counts as a sliver. The great thing is that you can have target creature gain all creature types until end of turn, or lose all creature types until end of turn. Comboed with Sliver Overlord, works really well. If a creature on an opponent's side has an ability or is just damaging to you and you want to take it away from them, as long as it doesn't have Shroud or Hexproof, turn it into a sliver, gain control of it with the Overlord. Real simple. Next we have Batter Sliver at 5 and a red. It's a little pricey, gives all your slivers trample. It's a nice little combat ability just to power through your opponent's defenses. Next up, Blur Sliver, 2 and a red, not too pricey, kind of getting there. Slivers have haste, very important, something you're going to want, being able to drop a sliver on board and just immediately start swinging in. Bone Size Sliver, 3 and a white, not too bad. Creatures of double strike, works very well with the Overlord, allowing you to hit for upwards of 14 or more damage. Ends games quickly via commander damage. Also, just depending on the size of your sliver horde, lets you really just get in a lot of damage really quickly. Next up, Brute Sliver. Whenever it deals damage to a player, you get a 1/1 sliver token. With Bone Scythe, or even without Bone Scythe, you get in, you get more slivers, you've got a larger army, allows you to just build up damage, build up blockers, combos really well with some of the other cards we've got a little deeper down in the pile. Next up, Clot Sliver, tap 2, regenerate this permanent. It's alright. I know a lot of decks are playing Wrath of God and Damnation that prevent you from being able to regenerate, but a lot of the board wipes that are being released now, regeneration, it's not really so much of a thing. So if you get board wiped and those creatures would go to the graveyard, pump out a bunch of mana, bring those slivers right back, try to recover. Crypt Sliver, tap, regenerate target sliver. It's very similar to what you want to do with Clot Sliver, except that you're limited with having to tap the slivers in order to regenerate other ones. It's alright, but unfortunately it doesn't work too well if you have Crystalline Sliver out, which gives all of your water slivers Shroud. Very powerful ability. There's a reason you don't really see Shroud anymore. In fact, I don't even think you see Hexproof that much anymore. But Crystalline Sliver is probably one of the very first slivers, or at least within the first 3, that you want to try and cast when you're setting up. Being able to keep yourself immune from targeted removal and being pinged, very important, because as you're going to see, a lot of the slivers, their base stats, very small. Up next, Dormant Sliver. This is the Defender Sliver that we talked about before. I don't think too many decks are gonna run it just in case they come up against a Sliver deck. It's more of a, there's that one guy in your play group running Slivers, you want to try to hose him quick, maybe consider playing Dormant Sliver. What we have for it is when a Sliver comes into play, draw a card. We've got ways of sacking Dormant Sliver, we've got ways of getting it off the board, and it's really just here as a draw engine. You're going to see most slivers are very cheap. We've got ways of generating tons of mana, so we just want to drop in a sliver, draw a card, drop in another sliver, draw a card, and just keep digging. Next, Essence Sliver. Whenever Sliver deals damage, its controller gains that much life. It's similar to Lifelink, at the same time, it's not. I actually forget what the textbook definition of it is, but even the updated Oracle text, it still reads the same thing. It doesn't read slivers you control have lifelink. Fury Sliver, 5 in a red, double strike. It's more expensive than Bone Scythe, but it's a little beefier, so depending on what the board state is, you might, or what open mana you have, Fury Sliver you may want to cast over Bone Scythe, but they're both interchangeable. Bone Scythe, it's a little bit better, depends on what you've got. Gale Rider, 1 blue, super cheap, slivers of flying. You're going to want evasion. If your slivers are on the ground, they can easily be blocked, preventing damage from being dealt, slowing down your game. You really want to aim to finish things off quickly. And Gale Rider giving you flying, really simple. Next, Gemhide, one of the more important cards in the build, makes all slivers a mana dork. It'll allow you to keep your lands open for other spells. Combos very well with the haste slivers and even the draw engine slivers. You know, drop in a sliver, tap it for mana, drop in another sliver, repeat. Real good. Harmonic Sliver. This is going to be one of your removal engines. Sliver enters battlefield, destroy an artifact or enchantment. The downside is if you're the only one with artifacts or enchantments on board, you gotta pop one of your own. But with especially artifacts being so important in EDH, you're probably not going to be the only one having one on board, especially when you actually want to start dropping in Harmonic Sliver and slivers after that. Heart Sliver, similar to Blur Sliver, except it's 1 colorless less. Slivers have haste, real important. One of the top 3 you want to try to cast early game.
Homing Sliver. This is one of the future-sided slivers where they were like, where Wizards was like, let's have cycling, but instead of you pitch a card, draw a card, you pitch a card and you tutor for a specific one. This one, slivers have pay 3, pitch, search your library for a sliver. Not too bad early on, or when you don't have the resources available to be able to cast Overlord. It's a nice way to be able to search out Gemhide or Mana Left. Horn Sliver, it's a cheaper battering sliver. Slivers of Trample, real solid, something to consider. Leeching Sliver, whenever sliver you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life. This is one of just, aside from just doing raw damage, it's a way to close out games a little bit quicker. It's a alternate win condition. It's going to work even better if you have a large horde available. Real solid. Mana Weft, it's Gemhide Sliver. Everything I said about Gemhide Sliver, apply it to Mana Weft. Real solid. Muscle Sliver, another cheap, simple card. You're definitely going to want to try to play it as early as possible. Slivers get +1/+1, real basic. Necrotic, another removal engine. This one is simply 3, sacrifice this sliver, destroy target permanent. Can't really complain with free Vindicates, right? Predator Sliver, it's Muscle Sliver. +1/+1, makes your slivers bigger, solid. Quick Sliver, it's got flash. You can play slivers as if they had flash. If you wanna just draw go, keep yourself open, make your opponent reconsider swinging into you. Not the worst plan. Something to consider. Root Sliver, real important. It's kind of pricey at 3 and a green, but it can't be countered, and your sliver spells can't be countered. Being a sliver player, you're gonna get targeted because everyone's afraid of slivers for whatever reason. Counter spells are probably gonna be pointed at you. Root Sliver, real important to keep that from getting in your way. Sentinel Sliver, slivers have vigilance. Real great, works super well with Gemhide and Mana Weft Sliver. Lets you swing in, still have blockers available, still be able to tap for mana to cast more slivers. Overall, real solid. Shifting Sliver, more evasion, can't be blocked except by slivers. I would say to get this over Gale Rider or Winged Sliver, except that it costs 3 and a blue. So it's kind of, it kind of really depends on what the board state is. If you're against a lot of flyers, you're gonna want to go for this in order to get that damage in. Sinew Sliver, Muscle Sliver, Predatory Sliver, same thing. Now we've got the legends. Sliver Overlord, we've got ours altered into a StarCraft Zergling. Slivers have indestructible. Really strong ability, just real strong. You can just go in and be a little bit reckless with your attacks and just have a lot of fun with it. Sliver Legion, we've got it as the Hordes of Hell from Neil Gaiman's Sandman comic. Sliver creatures get +1/+1 for each other sliver on the battlefield. This one's gonna win you games. Like it's very much just win more. As essentially just coat of arms specifically for slivers. Yeah, if your opponent has slivers of their own, it's gonna make things kind of tricky, but more often than not, you drop this, you should probably win that turn. If you don't, you're gonna knock out at least a couple of players or get them really super low. The downside of that, if you don't immediately win, everyone's turning on you that turn, so proceed with caution. Sliver Queen, 2, create a sliver creature. Honestly, I feel she's the weakest of the Sliver Legends because she just creates a dude and doesn't do anything else. But depending on when you drop her and what else you have on board, it could lead to that extra push of, oh, I have enough damage on board to knock out everyone at the table, or oh, now I have that one extra color source that I need for this other spell. It also facilitates a couple of the other combos that we have. So again, I think she's the weakest, but she's still very solid. Synapse Sliver deals damage to a player, draw a card. With the amount of slivers you should be able to attack with and the rate at which you'll be able to attack with them, you should be able to draw plenty of cards with this, which again, depending on what you have on board already, you should be able to drop a good amount of them, get yourself some blockers, bolster your forces, all around real solid utility. Next we've got Siphon Sliver, which is actually the Slivers have lifelink. It's cheaper than Essence Sliver, but it's also 1 power and toughness weaker. So depending on where you are in the game and what mana you have available, if you have the option of dropping either one of them, Siphon is probably the better choice, but again, depends on what the board state is. Thorncaster Sliver, very similar to Leeching, except that you can also, instead of dealing damage to an opponent, you can also take out a couple of troublesome creatures. Again, like I said with Leeching Sliver, it'll allow you to close out games a little bit quicker and also gives you some utility on board. Toxin Sliver, your slivers, when they deal damage to a creature, destroy it, it can't be regenerated. It's better than Death Touch. It's so much better than Death Touch. Combos really well with Thorncaster. You can just pick off an entire board depending on how many slivers you're attacking with. It works really well with Hive Lord lets you be a little bit more reckless. Just swing in. Don't care what you're gonna hit. You're not gonna die. They're gonna die. Really just lets you take care of a lot of potential problems on the board. Venom Sliver. Same thing I said for Toxin Sliver. The only difference is that this is actually Death Touch. If your opponent's creatures have a way to regenerate, Venom Sliver won't stop them from coming back. Virulent Sliver. So there's a lot of mixed feelings about poison and infect in Commander. And Virulent Sliver giving all of your slivers poisonous 1, which is different from infect. Infect will give poison counters based on the amount of damage dealt. Poisonous will always give whatever the poisonous value is, no matter how much damage is dealt. If your opponent is playing a very heavy life gain deck and their life just keeps going up and up and up and up, and there's no way that you can ever possibly be able to outpace them, Virulent Sliver, there's your answer. Just they can gain as much life as they want. They can't remove poison. They die at 10 poison counters. This is your answer. Ward Sliver comes into play. You choose a color. Your slivers have protection from that color. Really, it works best against mono or even 2-color decks, just due to how limited the colors are. But it'll still give you an extra layer of evasion and protection, keep some of your guys alive until you can get out Hive Lord. Also just lets you swing with a little bit more impunity. Winged Sliver, it's 1 colorless more expensive than Gale Rider, but everything that I said about Gale Rider applies to Winged Sliver. You want your slivers off the ground. You want them to be able to get in as much damage as easily as possible. Real cheap, real solid. Going into artifacts, we've got Chromatic Lantern as the 7 different colored green lanterns. I don't think I need to really explain Chromatic Lantern. Every deck I've seen that runs 3 or more, even some 2-color decks, run Chromatic Lantern as a mana rock and also gives them some mana fixing. You're definitely going to want this as early as possible, and even mid or late game. Dropping it gives you an extra mana source, fixes all your lands. You'll be able to cast whatever you need in case you haven't drawn, in case you're kind of stuck on one or more colors that aren't as helpful. Coat of Arms, similar to Sliver Legion, real risky if there's another tribal player on board. Even if there's not a pure tribal player, humans, wizards, those kind of things. A lot of really good commander cards have those subtypes, so you might be giving your opponents a bit of a boost here and there, but when you drop this, you should be able to knock out at least 1 or 2 people at the table. And even if your opponents get a bit of a buff, without the entire table being able to turn on you, you should be alright. Commander's Sphere. It's a mana rock. Can give you one of any color. Lets you draw a card. Not bad. Cryptic Gateway. This is going to be one of the ways that will let you cheat in a sliver if you're short on one color or another, or if you just don't have enough mana. Although with it costing 5, you can cast basically anything in the deck, so you shouldn't have too many problems. The downside is that you have to tap 2 untapped creatures you control, which could hurt you. It really just depends on the board state. Door of Destiny. Enters the battlefield. You're going to call Sliver. Just another way of letting your slivers get bigger. And depending on what your board state is like, it can snowball really quickly. Herald's Horn makes your slivers cheaper. 40% of the deck is slivers, so you've got a very high chance of being able to get a free card off of it during your draw step. Yeah, your opponent's gonna know that you've got such and such a sliver in hand. Doesn't really matter because you're probably going to be casting it that turn. Manolith. It's a rock. Gives you any color. Helpful. Paradox Engine. We've got referencing both Ready Player One, Akira, and Back to the Future. Whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents. Super powerful in this deck. Cast a Sliver, untap. If you've got Gemhide or Mana Weft, congratulations. You've got infinite mana. Go nuts. Dump your hand. If you've got Synapse on board, oh wait, no, not. I'm sorry, not Synapse. Dormant. Cast a Sliver, untap. Sliver enters the battlefield. You draw a card. It's probably going to be a Sliver. Repeat, 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 repeat. Eventually, you're going to have Haste. You're going to have Necrotic on board. You sack the Dormant to itself. You're probably going to have to blow up something. But then you've got this tremendous army ready to attack. It's just insane. Quicksilver Amulet, very similar to Cryptic Gateway, lets you cheat out a sliver. If you're short colors, or you just have a expensive mana, or you're like one short from casting a 5 or more cost, it's just a nice, decent way to get more stuff on board. Soul Ring. It's Soul Ring. What do I have to say? Urza's Incubator. We've got as Mr. Freeze with the cryogenically frozen Nora. Makes your sliver spells cheaper. The majority of between this and Herald's Horn, a lot of your spells are going to go to cost 1 of whatever the color is to maybe 1 of the color and 2 colorless. Speeds up what you're able to cast, lets you cast more stuff. Just solid all around. Vanquisher's Banner we have as Superman's cape during the Death of Superman event. Just makes your slivers bigger. Lets you get out more damage and the game a little quicker. Pretty much everything I said about about Muscle, Predatory, and Sinew applies to this. Moving on to enchantments, we've got Cryptolithrite. Creatures you control become dorks. Cost the same as Mana Weft and Gemhide Sliver. Everything I said about them applies to this. Intruder Alarm we have as Batman crashing through a window from the Killing Joke. Creatures don't untap during their controller's untap step, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield, untap all creatures. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. It works really great for slowing down your opponents if they're playing aggressive decks, because they won't be able to untap. The downside is that when you cast a Sliver, all their stuff's gonna untap. But it does also work in your favor if you've got Gemhide, Mana Weft, or Cryptolithrite on board, because you'll be able to, I mean, you essentially have infinite mana, same as Paradox Engine. You can tap out, dump all the creatures in your hand, swing, and even if you don't untap during your untap step, your opponent has to really think about if he wants to summon a creature, because all of your stuff is just going to untap, and you're going to be ready to block. If you have quick Sliver out, any slivers that you didn't have a chance to cast during your turn, you can now cast at an end step and just repeat the whole process. Kindred Discovery we've got as Ariel with the statue of Prince Eric. You're choosing slivers. Sliver's going to enter the battlefield. You're going to draw a card. Really simple. Keeps your hand full. Keeps you digging for options. Keeps you building your board. It's just good. Mana Echoes we have as, I think it's one of the Watchers from Dark Souls. I haven't played Dark Souls. I'm bad at Dark Souls. Whenever a creature enters battlefield, you get a number of colorless mana equal to the number of creatures that share a creature type with it. You're only playing slivers, so you're always going to be getting mana. Yes, it's colorless, but with that colorless, you can pour it into Sliver Overlord to get whatever slivers you want. Combos really well with Sliver Queen, as long as when you generate your first Sliver token with the Queen, you have enough mana to pay to generate that first token. You'll be able to generate another one, and then another one, and then another one. You have infinite Sliver tokens. Just give him haste, just give him flying, clear out the board. Real nice. Sorceries, we have Apheto Dredging. Return up to 3 creatures of a creature type of your choice from your grave to your hand. Again, you're only playing slivers. You're going to get back a sliver. I don't know why you had slivers that died, but you're going to get them back. You'll be able to recast them. Good stuff. Creeping Renaissance. So, someone will point out what it is. Even better than Apheto Dredging. Get back all your creatures. Recast them. Good stuff. It's got flashback, so in case you got board wiped, you can do it again.
Distant Melody. Draw a card for each permanent you control of a certain creature type. You're going to call Sliver. It is a little expensive at 3 and a blue, but you should be drawing a bunch of cards when you cast this. And you should have the means to be able to just dump your hand on board. Harsh Mercy. This is our only real board wipe. Well, no, we have 2 board wipes. This is one of 2 board wipes we have in the deck. It is more limited than Wrath of God or Day of Judgment, in that your opponent will still be left with creatures, depending on what creature type they choose. And if they're playing tribal, Harsh Mercy is not the best thing, but more often than not, your opponent will be left with a small handful of creatures. You'll have a full board of slivers. Go nuts. Kindred Dominance, we've got as Vegeta and Nappa during the Saiyan arc, likely right after they landed on Earth. Works similar to Harsh Mercy, it's just better. You choose a creature type, destroy anything that's not that creature. You really shouldn't be seeing another Sliver deck at the table. So this is at 5 and 2 black. It's very expensive, but this is what's going to help you close out games if you're having trouble. Just cast it, call Sliver, wipe the board, swing out. Good times. Patriarch's Bidding, we have as Gendo Ikari from Evangelion. Each player is going to choose a creature type and put all creatures from their graveyard of that type into their hand. Again, if you're playing against other tribal decks, this is going to be kind of risky, but you should be able to outpace them with how cheap slivers are and how easily you'll be able to reestablish a board presence. But it still raises the question of, how did you get board wiped? What happened? Primal Surge. This card's nuts. It's nuts. It's 8 and 2 green, which is very expensive, but this is also another way that you basically just, you cast this, you should win. You're gonna exile a top card of your library. If it's a permanent, put it onto the board. Repeat. The deck is, this deck is, I think, 86% permanence, maybe even like 93%. Unless you get really unlucky, you should see almost your entire library on board. And if you cast this at the right time, your opponent's not going to be able to do anything about it. You're just going to win. It is 100% win more. The one instant that we have, Kindred summons altered to be red with his team from Gold and Silver atop Mount. Is it Mount Silver? I forget what it is. But you choose a creature type. It's going to be Sliver. You reveal the top card of your library until you've revealed X creatures, where X is the number of creatures you control with that type, and you put them onto the battlefield. You're choosing Sliver. You should have a bunch of Slivers on board when you cast this, especially with it costing 5 and 2 green. It's win more, but it should be a guaranteed win. Finishing off with our lands, we'll just quickly blast through all of this.
It's full of duels, full of stuff that's going to give either options in your colors or one of any color. Let's just run through it. You got Blood Crypt, Breeding Pool, Clifftop Retreat, Command Tower, Dragon Skull Summit, Drowned Catacomb, Flooded Strand, a couple of forests, one from Unglued, a couple from Unhinged, Almond Cat, Glacial Fortress, Godless Shrine, Hallowed Fountain, Hinterland Harbor, Isolated Chapel, Misty Rainforest, Overgrown Tomb, Path of Ancestry. This one's actually, it depends on if you want to run it. I'm actually reconsidering it myself. It comes into play tapped, so it's kind of slow. But you'll be able to scry when you cast a creature spell. Might be good, might be helpful. Depends on how it plays. Again, it comes into play tapped, so it slows you down a bit. I haven't had a chance to see how it plays yet, but it's on the chopping block. Anyways, Polluted Delta, Reflecting Pool, Rootbound Crag, Sacred Foundry, Scalding Tarn. Did I miss one? No. Scalding Tarn, Steam Vents, Stomping Ground, Sulphur Falls, Sun Petal Grove, a single Amonkhet Swamp, Temple Garden, Unclaimed Territory. If you've got a Cavern of Souls, actually, if you have a Cavern of Souls, I wouldn't even say run it over Unclaimed Territory. Run both of them, because this will really, you're using it for the second ability of being able to have any color put towards your slivers. Majority of the time, you're casting a sliver. You're gonna want this. Watery Grave, Windswept Heath, Wooded Foothills, and Woodland Cemetery. As my lands just fall all over the place. Anyways, guys, that was the deck tech for Sliver Overlord. Hopefully, when you're building your deck, to be able to keep some of these things in mind. And as always, no deck is 100% correct. You might be able to have better options available, might have different options available than I presented. It all depends on your play group and what your own card pool is, also what your budget is like. But it's a really fun tribal deck to play. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, everyone hates slivers for some reason. So you're going to be targeted very early on. It might seem like you're not having fun because of that, but if you can set up quickly and really just start punching out damage, you're going to see that it's very aggressive. A lot of huge numbers are going to get racked up, and it's going to be one of those decks where if you're having a bad day, you're frustrated, you just want to win quickly, feel good, this is a good option for you. Again, I'm Gandalver. This has been Commander Showdown, and we hope to see you on the next one. Bye.